Welcome back, everyone, to Aspire to Lead, where we will be discussing the visions, inspirations, and experiences from top educational leaders. My name is Joshua Stamper, and you can connect with me on Twitter or on Instagram at Joshua_Stamper. What's up, Aspire leaders and Teach Better family? I'm so excited once again to have my monthly guest, Mitch Weathers, with me. And he has been battling sickness. He's been going and traveling all over the place. He is getting feedback on his bestseller book or close to that, which we'll touch on. But with that, Mitch, thank you so much for joining me once again on Aspire to Lead.
Absolutely. Glad to be back, Josh. Anytime. It's fun. I love so chatting with you.
Yes. Love catching up and hearing all the fantastic things that's going on with Organized Binders and with yourself. For those who don't know, Mitch just wrote a phenomenal book, and I'm going to show it on screen because I love doing this. So Executive Functioning for Every Classroom, and we're going to be touching on this today. But before we do that, Mitch, you just kicked off a very successful free webinar, and I wanted to know what you were talking about.
Yeah, well, imagine this. We were talking about executive functioning.
Shocker.
And how do we equip our students? To be honest, Josh, it's just kind of a gesture of goodwill. I just pick a date, not necessarily every month. I'll share it with friends like you that'll share it out. We'll share it to our list just one time, and then we just see who signs up. And it's really fun. This last week, I think we had 70 people sign up, and it's just a space to get together with people that I most likely have not met, that want to learn more about this work, how it's maybe different than other resources and programs. So we talk one part, executive functioning skills. What are they? Why haven't they been historically taught? How they can, how they are taught, et cetera. And then we also can pivot over into Organized Binder itself. So it was fun, man. We had this last week. It was an international gathering. We had folks from, who was on the call? Some folks from Portugal, some folks from Brazil, around the States, and then a number of people who wrote in where the time zone just didn't make sense for them. I don't know. I can't remember where they were. So
Australia.
We always record them and then share them out. But it's all, to me, it's interesting and humbling, but evidence that there's need for this work around executive functioning globally. And I think that is definitely a byproduct of the pandemic, where I think, at least in my career, for the first time, talking to educators on any and every continent at any and every grade level, seeing the same needs that can be addressed with executive function. So it's fun.
Perfect. And they can get more information at your website?
Yeah, organizedbinder.com. And if you want to just go to the landing page, it's organizedbinder.com/EF as an executive function. That'll take you to the free RSVP.
Perfect. Yeah. Well, if you're watching on YouTube, you can see the website on the screen. I don't have that specific /EF link, but you can definitely find it at organizedbinder.com. And Mitch is always providing amazing content and resources, especially on executive functioning. With that, Mitch, I want to talk about your brand new book that's been out for a couple months, and you're close to being a bestseller with Corwin.
Yeah, crazy. I think I
just
shared
a short
with you
period of time.
First 2 weeks. Yeah, this is my first book, so this is all new to me. The first 2 weeks it was out, it hit #1 in special education on Amazon, which is interesting because I spend, a major point of the book and my work is tier 1. As opposed to tier 2 and tier 3 with executive functioning, but we can chat about that in a moment. But Corwin, has a number in mind, and their hope is that authors will sell in the first year 2,500 copies, which is quite a few. And they wrote to me a couple of weeks ago saying I'm getting close to that number, which is just
so excited.
It's this interesting vehicle. I mean, you're a published author, so you get it, but I'm having an absolute blast meeting with schools and districts, and in fact, some county offices doing book studies. And they could be anywhere from like everyone on campus or everyone in the district gets a copy, and it's kind of like our summer read, and we're going to meet with Mitch on the backside or midway and kind of have a debrief to a more structured like book study. And I deliberately have reflection questions at the end of each chapter, which can help guide those discussions, and some of them are quite, I don't want to say formalized, but structured in a way that, one school in Texas is doing. They have a whole Padlet set up to kind of track reflections throughout the summer. A county office they actually built a course in Schoology that we're all in there interacting together, and it's a great time. So
it's awesome.
I think, it'll be a fun summer. Continuing these.
Well, for those who are listening, if you haven't had a chance to go over and grab the book, please do so. It's phenomenal. I've continued to show it on screen for a reason. So I'll have the link in the show notes. Of course, it's on joshstamper.com also, but I highly recommend it. And Mitch, I kind of want to start there with this conversation for the month on executive function. Is I know that you're meeting with a lot of leaders, like you said. You got the superintendents, you got building leaders that you're speaking with, and I know you're getting feedback in regards to the content in the book. You had touched on tier 1. I'm curious kind of what are some of these things that are being brought up by the school leaders specifically about the content in the book and how, they're trying to tap into you to get more information. So where would you like to start in regards to the feedback you've been getting?
Yeah, that's also been a really fun experience to jump on a Zoom call with someone you've never met.
Yeah.
And they have your book in hand, and there's sticky notes, and they're opening it up, showing stuff they've highlighted, and they're really excited. And Josh, I think I appreciate you asking that, by the way. What is resonating most at that leadership level, let's just say, whether it's site, district, county, whatever that might be, is the fact that this work, and I mentioned it earlier, is really designed for tier 1, universal tier 1 resource for schools. And when at least speaking from my experience and books that I read and have continued to read, a lot of the work around executive functioning can either be very much tier 2 and tier 3.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is kind of live in that special ed world.
Correct.
Which is not a bad thing, but translating it and recognizing, well, we want this to be an inclusive practice in all classrooms for all students, those that have been identified needing more scaffolding and support and those that aren't. And so that's where I'm seeing a site leader say, I want every teacher on campus, down to TK and pre-K, all the way up, depending on the setting at the district or the school, because it is designed in the whole program that I outline in the book is a true universal tier 1. So that's been kind of the biggest feedback from leaders. And then the second piece, because it's a tier 1, it makes for, and I unpack this a lot in the book and in talks I give. I was just, we were chatting before we went live. I was in Arizona the last couple of days speaking at Pima County Office of Ed. And we had a bunch of different district leaders, some folks from the Arizona Department of Ed, and a bunch of teachers, quite an eclectic group. And one of the things I try to unpack is this idea of collective teacher efficacy. It's one of the first things I say in the book. And if you follow Hattie's work and others around effect size, but mostly visible learning and John Hattie's work, collective teacher efficacy is always either at the top or, 1 or 2 on strategies. And if you're new to this work around visible learning and effect size, I love it because there's a simple question. What helps students be successful? And let's do more of that. And then what doesn't? And let's do less of those things, right? I mean, the simplicity in that. And then I love, and the meta-analyses around that topic, just answering that question. And it's fascinating. And the top of the list is this idea of collective teacher efficacy, that we're all in it together, right? And I've thought a lot about that. Like, how do you get collective if we're teaching different grade levels? If I'm at an elementary school, like we're in it kind of like, yeah, we're all in it, like rah, rah, rah. But like, really, what's something we can point to? Or if I'm at a middle school, will you teach this subject? I'm here, and this. We're all, in that sense, can be kind of siloed. Same thing at a high school, same thing at a college, right? But this collective teacher efficacy matters. And so another thing that's resonating with leaders when you were asking that is I can walk on a school or a campus, even a district, and it can be easier to identify and point to the tier 2 and the tier 3 resources, interventions or structures. What's less common, which can kind of become kind of like rhetoric, is what really is tier 1. Well, what if we rally around? So there's 3 keys I explain in the book for teaching executive functions: clarity, routine, and modeling. Well, that's something we can rally around. It's content agnostic. It's grade level agnostic. It helps all students be more successful. And behind closed doors, we tell leaders it helps some teachers, because some teachers struggle with executive dysfunction. So can we collectively rally around a predictable routine? It's the subtitle of the book. And you can. And so those are the things I'm hearing, like, wow, this is universal tier 1. It's something we can all rally around regardless of my grade level or subject. And let's just be honest, that's really fun as a teaching staff. Like, we're all in this thing together. I still got my job to do, right? And it's very different than what you do in 5th grade, because I'm teaching 2nd grade, or whatever it might be. So that's been some of the conversations that seem to really be resonating.
This podcast is a proud member of the Teach Better Podcast Network. Better today, better tomorrow, and the podcast to get you there. You can find out more at teachbetter.com/podcasts. Now let's get back to the episode.
Mitch, I want to pick your brain a little bit about the fact that executive functioning for the longest time has really been under that umbrella of special education, specifically in the tier 2, tier 3. Why do you think that is? Like, why has it been such a assumption, or this is branded of this department only, when you really think about it, it is skills that need to be universal, just like you were talking about. And it does need to live in tier 1, and it does need to live in every classroom, regardless of the subject matter being taught. I'm just curious your thoughts as to why you think, for as long as I can think of, it's only been a special education topic, when that's just ridiculous. That's asinine that it only lives in that space.
Yeah, you and everybody else, myself included, we're like scratching our heads like, why have we, I can't say for certain, but what I do know for certain is we have left the development of these skills largely up to chance.
Yep.
Unless, and here's where I think, it's not, I don't mean this as a negative. When an issue, so it's kind of a deficit thing, when we find that there's an issue, when students can't do a certain thing, or I can't, whatever that might be, and there needs to be an intervention, and might that lead to a 504 or an IEP, or something more structured, tier 2, tier 3 interventions, then all of a sudden we start talking about it, and that's great, right? But as I state in the book, a friend of mine says, you can't tier 2 yourself out of a tier 1 problem. And if you don't have that tier 1 intervention for all students, which I argue needs to help identify, but oftentimes address or mitigate executive functioning issues a student might have. And when they persist, that's okay. That just means now we have a more authentic tier 2 and possibly, if needed, tier 3 intervention. So although they have historically been left up to chance, I feel like that's when the spotlight gets put on it, it's when something's not going right. And we can't afford to make that mistake any longer. There's, I say this a lot too. This is something that I've had a few principals in the last couple of weeks that get on, and they're like, I love that you point out that it's not right or wrong or better, what's more important, what's less important. It's just an order of operations, that this is primary or foundational work. The stuff we teach, grade level or subject area, this is secondary. The trick with that, though, is I don't have time for primary and secondary. If I am teaching 5th grade, I don't have enough time to get through what I need to teach in the year anyhow. So I can't do all this primary work. So it has to be done in conjunction with what I'm tasked with teaching, hence the routine and modeling and clarity. But yeah, to your point, I don't know. I've never met, and if you've ever heard me speak live or you've read my book, you've heard me say this. I put up these 6 executive functioning skills, and I say, I've never met a teacher, a leader, a parent that doesn't want young people practicing and learning. I'm turning around like I'm presenting right now. That don't want students honing these skills, setting goals, learning to manage their time, organizational structures. I mean, of course. And then you go, so why haven't they been taught? And I should say, I don't know why we haven't prioritized them, but I know why teachers don't. And if I can have a moment to talk about that, because it's absolutely, I think, true.
Yep.
Again, I outline it in the book, but I've done the same thing. I've thought about it for years, because I was, from the moment I entered the classroom, kind of gripped by like, this is the stuff we need to be developing in our students, and nobody's talking about it. And I don't know how do you help them develop these things, all of that. But there's two things, and I just mentioned one of it is two reasons why I think they haven't been taught from a teacher lens is time, right? No teacher has enough time in the school day to get through what they wanted to get through. And they certainly don't have enough time in the school year to get through what we're tasked with teaching. It used to drive me nuts when the standardized testing would be in like April. And I'd be like, and I remember I'd have students, those witty students, after that big formal high stakes test, they'd be like, so we're done, right? And I'd be like,
peace out.
We have like 7 weeks still, And I remember having to be strategic. You did that. Every teacher's done this.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so what am I going to teach after that? Well, that's the stuff that's not on this test. And don't get me started on the testing. Point being, right? Teachers don't have enough time to begin with. And so even if I wanted to teach my students these executive functioning skills, if I was to provide you with a curriculum or something like that you actually teach and with them, you're not going to do it because you don't have enough time. And it's not your job. You weren't hired to teach executive functions. You were hired to teach 5th grade or 9th grade at ELA or whatever it might be, right? Which is why I make a very bold statement at the beginning of my book that executive functioning skills aren't taught. They're best learned when students clearly see them modeled and they get practice with them within the context of what I'm learning, grade level or subject. So I don't have time. And then it's something I call the zone of genius. Mm-hmm. And the way I unpack it is whenever I would walk into my mom's 2nd grade classroom, she taught 2nd grade her whole career. And I taught high school. And I was in the classroom my whole career. So I'd walk into this and you could just feel it in her classroom. It was like her zone of genius, right? I couldn't describe it. I lasted about 5 minutes in that room before I was completely exhausted and overwhelmed, right? Like how many hugs can you get in 5 minutes before you're just like, get away from me, kids, right? I'm better at that big kid thing. She would say the same thing about my classroom. And so even though it's like, that might be like, this just makes sense to me. Teaching 2nd grade, I'm really good at what I do. This is my zone of genius. And yes, I want my kids to develop all those skills, but that may not be my zone of genius. Or maybe I struggle organizationally. Maybe I struggle with time management, all those types of things. So those two combined, I think just makes for the conversation I've had more times than I can count on the backside of a talk I would give at a conference or at a district, and veteran teachers would come up, much older than me, saying, this is all the stuff I've wanted to do and I've known I've needed to do my whole career. And I either just didn't get around to it, time, or I just didn't know how to incorporate it. And you've put it together in this routine for us that we can start doing tomorrow. Yeah, I'm very passionate about that question.
That's why I asked it.
As you can probably tell.
I want to get Mitch fired up. I was about to start going down the testing road, but then I didn't know if I'd have to leave out some stuff.
It's a rabbit hole there.
No,
so G-rated.
Yeah, we'll keep it G-rated. So, Mitch, obviously we're meeting each month. I would love for our next conversation to really hone in on the tier 1 specifically and some things that can be implemented in the classroom. I mean, sure. For those who don't want to wait until next month, definitely pick up the book because Mitch has so much information and amazing takeaways that you can put into your lesson plan tomorrow. So highly recommend that. Like I said, you can go over to the website, joshstamper.com, to find more information. There's links in there to pick up the book, connect with Mitch, but also you can go over to organizedbinder.com. Obviously, you're going to get a lot more resources over at Mitch's website than mine, but I'm going to definitely have it in the show notes. And then, of course, if you're watching on YouTube, you're going to see various links on the screen as we were talking, and hope you push the like and subscribe button either on my channel at Joshua Stamper, or you are over at the Teach Better YouTube page, which is a growing community in itself. So hopefully you are subscribed there, because there's a lot of other educational content on that space also. So with that, Mitch, I wanted to just highlight a new partnership with Magic Mind. So I'm going to put this code up on the screen for those who are watching on YouTube. If you're listening on a podcast platform, of course, that'll be in the show notes, but head over to magicmind.com. You can use the code Aspire to Lead 20 to get 20% off of your order off of this fantastic energy drink that they've got. It's small, but I have found it's extremely helpful with my old age and not being able to drink coffee after 12 p.m. So for those who get jittery or feel gross having a bunch of caffeine or acid in your stomach, this is definitely a way to go. It's all natural and has a very small amount of caffeine, but it'll be the boost you need to get through your day, especially if you're an educational leader. Man, I wish I had this for the decade long of administration, but now I use it with my 6 kids. So still need that energy boost. But you'll hear more information. We've got a long span here with that phenomenal company. So super happy to be partnering with Magic Mind, but also want to make sure that you guys are getting a discounted price for your purchase. So head over to that website, and you'll be seeing a lot more on my website and then future episodes. So with that though, Mitch, super excited about the work that you're doing. Excited to see you in August. So for those who are following on social media, make sure that you capture the meeting that will be joyous between Mitch and myself in Denver, Colorado. Live in person, like to actually see that you're functional and for real. Yes.
I'm not AI. I'm not an AI generated.
Well,
character.
You were doing this before and I was like, man, I don't have anything to superimpose the points that you're making. But if you check out probably on Instagram, I'll have that meet up in the stories there. But I'm super pumped about that, man. And we've been connected for a while, but it'll be great to see you in person. And yeah. You were just in Arizona. I know you're going to Minnesota, my favorite state. Also, you're going to be heading over to Colorado, my second favorite state. Also,
Texas
and Texas,
Tennessee, and
man, you're just in all my states, man.
Quite the summer travel. Well, you're traveling too. Well, you're in the South.
I'll be Arkansas. Yep, and then keynoting in my backyard. So in Breckenridge, a beautiful town, and be talking about leadership capacity. So something that I'm super passionate about, and we'll be connecting to my book. So yeah, it'll be great summer. I know we're going to be seeing a lot of people in person, which will be awesome. For those who want to connect with Mitch, what's the best way outside of your website to connect with you?
Outside of the website, just email me. Mitch at organizedbinder.com. It's pretty simple.
Perfect.
Just Mitch, MITCH, at organizedbinder.com. You can try to track me down on social. You'll be more successful if you track Josh down and say, Josh, tell Mitch to check his messages.
This is true. This is a true statement.
On social. But I'm getting
and I will track Mitch down for you.
You can do that.
No, Mitch's his social media game is improving leaps and bounds each month. So
he's really excited about it, everybody. Meaning Josh is really excited about it.
I'm very excited because Mitch needs to get with it. No.
That's right.
No, definitely connect regardless on social media, or Mitch is super accessible via email, or you can connect with him on his website. And then, like I said, let's get Mitch into the bestseller list here, folks. So if you are interested in executive functioning, learning how to implement that either in the classroom or at the campus level, I highly recommend. I've given my recommendation in the book, given it on social media, and we'll continue to pound the table, not only for Mitch as a person, but then also this beautiful and wonderful resource. So with that, sir, thank you so much for joining me once again this month on Aspire to Lead.
Yeah, man. Fun to be here. I'll see you next month.